The reality is, a lot of people make that money and it still doesn't add any value to their life. They make the money and they still have this void. They make the money and they still don't feel happy with themselves. There's so much of that in the world because people are afraid to be their authentic selves.
Some experts chase attention, but the smart ones build authority. You're listening to the Authority on Demand podcast, where credibility becomes your competitive advantage. Every week, we're pulling back the curtain on how founders and leaders turn expertise into inbound demand through books that position, media that converse, and strategies that actually move the needle. I'm Danielle Hutchinson, your host and Chief Creative Officer at Authority on Demand. Now, let's turn your authority into leverage.
Okay, everybody. So, would you rather have 10 people who truly understand you or a million who barely know you exist? In a world obsessed with metrics, followers, and external validation, today's guest chose authenticity over algorithms. Derrick Henderson turned down opportunities to buy reviews because he'd learned something powerful. The journey to finding yourself can't be outsourced or fast-tracked. Welcome to Authors on Mission podcast, where we explore the real stories behind the books that change lives. I'm your host, Danielle Hutchinson, and today we're going to be talking about the messy, beautiful process of becoming yourself with Derrick Henderson, author of Learning to Be Me, Lessons and Perspectives. It's a book that reads less like a self-help, more like a conversation with your wisest friend. And trust me, Derrick has some amazing stories to tell us. We're going to learn a lot. So without further ado, Derrick, welcome to the show.
And thank you, Danielle, for that amazing introduction. I really appreciate that.
Hey, real quick before we jump back in, if you're loving what we're doing here, hit that subscribe button and drop us a like. We're bringing you the best authors, the most real conversations, and all the writing wisdom that you didn't know you needed. So stick around because it only gets better from here. All right, now let's get back to the conversation.
Go ahead. It's a pleasure to have you on. I'm really looking forward to this.
Yeah, I came from kind of a very humble upbringing, so getting out and doing things like talking with people that I've never met or doing things like this are were definitely out of my comfort zone. It was something I had to learn how to do. But it's been very interesting in the book journey how there are so many people who are willing to help you market your book or help you get reviews or help you do all of these other things. And a lot of times it's just bots or it's just
Yeah, trust me.
people, yeah, trying to just push something that honestly, most of the time, if I check out their credentials, they're not even believers in it. I've had people contact me trying to get me to advertise with them, and they present themselves as somebody else. And then when it comes time for advertising, I'm like, oh yeah, send the money to, like, but that's not who I talk to. Oh, well, that's my business partner. Yeah, I'm not doing it. Um, I want authentic people. If I'm going to engage with somebody, I want somebody who's real. I want somebody who tells me the truth. I want somebody who's not trying to sell me just to push something. I don't feel like that's an authentic way to present yourself or to be in the world. There's so many people out there willing to sell their soul for $1 and trying to make another buck and thinking that, well, if I just make that next dollar, that'll be the check mark. That'll be what makes it make sense for me. And the reality is, a lot of people make that money and it still doesn't add any value to their life.
Right.
They make the money and they still have this void. They make the money and they still don't feel happy with themselves. And there's so much of that in the world because people are afraid to be their authentic selves, because they're afraid of how they'll be received. They're afraid of what people would think of them if they actually spoke their mind. And there's so many people in this world that want to actually say who they are, but they're just scared to speak up. And that definitely was me, um, kind of growing up. And I would always try to present whatever light I thought people wanted to see. And that wasn't who I was. It was just this illusion I was creating to connect with people. And I think there are ways to connect, but you need to have your own values and your own perspective on life, and then find the people that actually connect with you there.
Understood. Yeah, and so it's really clear that, your upbringing, left a huge impact, but really seemed to guide you. I mean, now you don't listen to those scammers, find your own truth, find somebody who's authentic and a human and, someone who's going to really help you. So that's just, really powerful to know. And I think that's what you really advocate for in your book as well. And kind of branching off that in your materials, you did mention that, growing up, it was a quote, painted version of a world out to get you. So it's interesting how that kind of developed throughout this life, and now here you are, stronger than ever, helping others get through that sort of emotional healing. So I'm wondering if you'd like to share a little bit about that, and ultimately what made you decide, what, I have to put it into a book.
Well, one of the things that always made me feel like I was disconnected, is I would be absorbing all the information I could get. Anything I felt like I could that would benefit me, I was taking it in. And I grew up trying to educate myself because I didn't feel like I could count on the people in my immediate circle to educate me beyond their beliefs
Right.
of life. So that gave me a different perspective than most people because they come up and they can get engulfed in their culture or in their belief systems, and they can get caught up in having everything have to be a certain way. And I think that's how we get pulled off center.
Understood. So is that kind of what leads you into the idea of embracing emptiness, pretty much? Like it does seem a little counterintuitive in a culture that tells us to be, you need to achieve more, you need to achieve more, but I think that relates exactly to what you were just saying. Is that correct?
Yeah, so a lot of times most people feel like if we're not constantly doing something, if we're not constantly filling the space, that we're not moving forward in the world.
Right.
They feel like every minute of the day has to be doing something. I've been there. I've done it. I've exhausted myself doing 9 hours of massage in a day.
Wow.
And then at the end of the day, I'm exhausted. I don't have energy for anything else. And the money was great, but it wasn't bringing the fulfillment I was looking for. It was just it definitely helped, but it wasn't filling that space. And I was just filling all my time, so I didn't have to sit with myself. So I didn't have to recognize what was really going on and that emptiness that I was feeling.
Right.
And by filling all my time, I didn't have to face the emptiness. And when we can embrace it as a part of us, when we can not feel the need to fill every void, we actually have more room for growth because we're not so full we can't absorb any more information. And I think that's the biggest takeaway for somebody with embracing the emptiness is if you don't have any space because you filled all your time, then you don't have any space to take on more information. You're holding on to trash or you're holding on to information that's no longer valuable to you, and you're storing that in a place that's taking up space for your growth.
Understood. And that's not what you want, right? We need to make sure that we have that space open so that you can grow and you can develop in your own way that in a way that you need it to, which is really important. So it's really beautiful that you have that in your book. Um, I'm wondering if that also relates to your idea of sleeping Sundays, which, it's kind of about slowing down so that you can be productive. I think that actually reflects exactly what you were just saying. Is that correct?
Yes, so that is it. But with Sleeping Sundays, it's about embracing the break as much as you
Mhm.
embrace being out, working yourself to death, It's about embracing the same amount of energy that you put into doing everything, taking a break from everything.
Right.
So it really helps to put things in perspective when we have that quiet time to take a break from everything, and it allows us to reset. So when we do go back out, we have that new perspective because we've been able to absorb all of the knowledge that we've gained because we've had that space to contemplate it. And at the same time, we've had that chance to relax and give ourselves that break that's necessary. But then the contrast of sleeping Sundays is when you feel like you've got more growth that needs to be done and you're devoted to that. But we need to have that contrast and we need to make sure we're giving ourselves that time to commit as much to our rest as we commit to our growth. So it balances out.
Exactly. So you just have to find that balance. I understand what you mean completely. And I think it's great that, again, wonderful stuff that everybody should be learning and learning from. So, guys, if you haven't already checked out Derek's book, it's a great opportunity to do so and learn a little bit more about this. Which, by the way, do you happen to have a copy of the book with you today?
Yeah, so I got it up above my head, but yep.
Ah, there it is. Oh, that's who, yeah, it is behind your head.
Yeah.
That's funny. So it's really cool. So tell us about the process designing that cover. I mean, we always like to say don't judge a book by its cover, but this cover obviously has a lot of meaning behind it and really captivates the
Yes.
reader. So let me know what went behind that decision process.
So for me, this book was about speaking to my younger self. And I was gifting the knowledge that I've gained to my younger self, but I was also gifting it to the world. So I wanted other people to be able to see that reflected in the cover. So the cover, the essence of the cover is my older self teaching my younger self. And so I'm sitting there attentively engaged with somebody who's talking about my life, that's talking about my experiences and gifting me that space to grow. And for me, when it came time to do the cover, I was going over all these thoughts in my head and I said, that's it. That's what resonates for me. That's that's a story that needs to be told. When people look at this cover, they need to be able to see, oh, okay, so learning to be me, it's a younger and older version of the same person who's interacting to communicate ways to grow and the lessons that they've learned to be better people in the world.
Wow, that's very inspiring too. And I think that anybody looking at it can see themselves in your image too, right? Like teaching their own younger selves, which just goes to show the importance behind your book too. So really cool stuff. Now that we've talked about that, though, I'm wondering if we could transition a little bit into the writing process. You said the book required getting out of your own way. So I think that's something a lot of listeners today probably deal with as well. What specific mental barriers did you have to overcome?
Well, for me, it was constantly feeling like even though I had all this knowledge, who was I to teach somebody else it?
That imposter syndrome, right?
Yes, yes. It was that feeling of even if I get it out there, well, am I really going to be able to help people?
Right.
Even if I can put it out there, will people get what I'm trying to say, or will they misinterpret my words and then vilify me in some way? And so it was a mental game to unravel. And I was blessed to go through a program that helped me. It was kind of a coaching program that helped me get out of my own head. And part of that was other people reflecting to
Mm.
me that my knowledge was useful and reflecting back to me that they were feeling similar situations. And I think that's a big piece for everyone is to know that you're not alone in feeling disconnected or feeling afraid and stepping out of your comfort zone. It's definitely a kind of jarring feeling to put a piece of yourself out there to the world.
Yeah, for sure.
But when you can do it and you start getting the interactions from people who've read the book and say how it was helpful or what they got out of it or how it made them reflect on their childhood and how it made them feel like somebody was telling their story. That that gives you a high that there's not much that can match.
That's true. Do you happen to have a specific example that you'd like to share? People love hearing these kind of stories because it inspires them to continue on with their writing, even if they're facing the same roadblocks. So, is there a certain story that stands out above others that someone who's helped?
Well, yes. One of my friends got the book, and for them, they initially told me how quick they were going through the book. And then they hit the book or the chapter on reflecting on a childhood.
Okay.
And for them, it was resonating with their upbringing and various other aspects of growing up. And it gave them a perspective from their parental figure down to give them some space to see that even their parents had their own traumas that they were dealing with and that had been brought into their relationship. And I think sometimes we can position our parental figures into this holier than thou or demonized figures, and we don't reflect on the fact that they too are human and they've probably experienced some traumas as well that might cause them to react the way that they did. Now, it doesn't excuse it. I think that's the big thing, but acknowledging that they too can have experienced trauma and it be reflected in how they raised you because it was what they knew and it was the lessons they grew up on and the perspective that they had. Not to dismiss how they did it, not to dismiss how you're feeling, but just to see that perspective and reflect back on how it affected you, but how they were affected as well, and humanizing other people, giving us empathy for one another.
Absolutely. I thank you for sharing that. And see, that's the exact thing that everybody loves to hear, right? Your work pays off. You're able to really get your message across to others, and they learn that, everything that you just mentioned. So beautiful stuff. Um, but you also learned that, finishing the writing was just the beginning. You spoke a little bit about this in the beginning of our podcast. What sort of tips and tricks do you think that authors out there need to know once their book is published? Things that you wish you knew in advance, such as, don't listen to the people who message you that are just bots, right?
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
any other tips that you might want to offer?
Um, I think for me, figuring out what your message is, how you want to get it out there. I've been engaging with the Facebook, started this little YouTube channel just to kind of engage people in subject matters related to the book and the upcoming book. Um, and I was really apprehensive to start a website. I thought they were kind of dated. But it's a great place to have everything in one space. So you can send everybody to one space. They can find your book. They can find any other socials you have so they can follow you there rather than having to explain 15 different metrics to people.
Yeah, it makes it a lot easier than rattling off, the email, the Instagram, the YouTube, all of that. So yeah, very clever. So for you then, what is that email or website name that we
Website.
could find that contact information?
Yes, it's Derrick Henderson author.com.
All right, everyone. Well, you heard it here. We're going to put the link in the description box of this podcast today also, so you can go ahead and click on over and get in touch. Um, but, you also mentioned actually that this book is your first, but you're working on another one, book two. Is that correct?
Yes. Yes, I just released this one in May and I had already started on book number two and I've got that one.
Exciting.
Yeah, I've got that one. I just kind of edited and organized it myself this time, but I am gonna still have some more processes along the way. But I am excited for this one. It's kind of the follow-up to Learning to Be Me, and I haven't even put it out there what the name is yet, but the name
Oh,
will
it's a big. Okay, okay.
but the name is going to be Living for Me,
Wow, did we just hear
Growth
that
and
for the
Expansion.
first time today?
Yes, this is the first place I've publicly put it out.
Wow, we are very honored. So you said it's called Living, and I'm sorry, I think I might have cut you off.
Living for me.
Living for Me. I like that. And that's a perfect compliment to the original title too. So,
Yes, yes,
oh, what
it's
an honor, guys. Thank you so much. Oh, that's very exciting. And do you happen to have a release date in mind, or are you still kind of in the
my
process?
goal is to have it by year's end, but I don't have a specific date yet.
Okay.
So it will be before December 31st, but there will be updates on my website
Yeah, I was gonna say,
as I get closer, and I'm going to be releasing some of the edited or removed chapters um, that didn't end up going with the flow of the book. So I took them out, and those I'm going to release on my blog, which is also where they'll be able to find any of the podcasts. Like this one will be uploaded to the blog as well so that people can find it there, and any of the other podcasts that I've been on. So,
well, perfect. And there we go. That's another reason why that website is so useful. So we can just, keep checking at everybody, stay up to date in the know, and you'll know exactly when the next book is ready to go. Perfect stuff. So as we start to wrap up a little bit today, I'm wondering if you happen to have any other bits of advice for the authors out there today. Some other things that perhaps you found challenging in the process, or that you think others really should be aware of as they dive into their own writing journeys. I'm wondering if you have any idea.
well, I think one thing that for me was particularly important was not to lose my voice
Mm,
in the editing process. And what I ended up doing was hiring an independent editor to help me, rather than going through the standard publishing venues, because then I had more of a say on what stayed in the book
right,
and
right.
what got
Cool.
moved. And I think depending on your pursuit or what type of book you are writing, um, I think there's definitely a value in keeping your own voice in the book. And when you're authentically showing up as yourself, you want people to get that authenticity. And when it's removed through uh, various channels, it kind of loses some of that.
True. Understood. Yeah, no, that definitely is a huge thing, a very unique piece of a very unique piece of advice also. I haven't quite heard that one before, but it's very important that we do that, right? Because it's your book. It needs to have your voice, what you want to say in it. So don't let other opinions sway you. And I guess that's kind of the main message of your whole platform basically too. Just, believe in yourself and your own intuition, and that's how you get the best content across.
Yes. And then it's also when you show up authentically, you are going to resonate with the people that your book is meant for.
Ah, yes.
And those people are going to be the people that are going to speak up because they're going to get what you presented authentically. And if you are to take that away because your words were nullified or minimized, you end up losing a lot in that.
Understood. And that's what we don't want. You want to make sure that everything you need to say gets out there. So don't hold back, everyone. Just start writing.
Yes.
Well, Derek, it's been a really inspiring conversation. I really appreciate you coming on and sharing all this with us. And I'm really excited to hear about the next book too, and to read more into the others.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And to our listeners who are listening today, if you're inspired, be sure to check out Learning to Be Me, Lessons and Perspectives. It's a story about self-discovery, but it's also about, courage and knowing that discovery is something you do out loud, even when it's uncomfortable, even if it's different from others expect. So check it out and check out Derrick Henderson's website. We're going to have it in the description box of this podcast today. So until next time, keep writing your own story and not the one everyone else expects you to live. We'll see you next time on the Authors on Mission podcast.
That's a wrap on another episode of the Authority on Demand podcast. If today's conversation sparked something in you, don't keep it to yourself. Share this episode with a founder or leader who's ready to stop being the best kept secret in their industry. If you want to turn your expertise into inbound demand, head to authorityondemand.com to see how we help clients go from unknown to in demand. I'm Danielle Hutchinson, and I'll catch you on the next one. Now, go build some authority.